Chapter 6 The Sea Around Us. Under the Sea Wind sold very few copies. Rachel was discouraged. "Don't ever write a book," she told a friend at the time. "It doesn't pay as well as a single well-placed magazine article." Getting so little money for her work was upsetting, but having so few people read it was worse. Nothing was wrong with her book. There was just no time to read. The Second World War kept the Fish and Wildlife Service, the new name for the Bureau of Fisheries, very busy. Battles were being fought by warships and submarines. These ships needed to know more about the ocean depths and currents. At work, Rachel read some of the fascinating reports from government research. Other scientific news was horrible. Atom bombs had been dropped on the towns of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. It ended the war. It also ended the belief that life on Earth would go on, no matter what people did. Rachel had always thought that the stream of life would flow on through time in whatever course God had appointed for it, without interference from one of the drops of the stream, man. Then, after atomic science proved her deepest beliefs wrong, Rachel said, "I shut my mind, refused, what I couldn't help seeing." By 1947, Rachel was restless. Perhaps it was time to write another book, after all. She decided that this one would be a book for anyone who has looked out upon the ocean with wonder, not just for scientists, but for anyone who has stood on the shore alone with the waves in his thoughts or has felt from afar the fascination of the sea. And it would have a gentle warning about how people must use their new powers carefully. Soon after she started, Rachel found an agent, Marie Radell. Marie's job was to help with all the business details of getting Rachel's new book into print. Marie found a publisher for Rachel's book, but Oxford University Press said they wanted it in just 10 months. Rachel was not strong, and she was often sick. Almost every year she had some fairly serious illness. Shirley Briggs remembered. But she kept on going as best as she could. Now that her mother was in her late 70s, Rachel was doing all the cooking and cleaning. After working long hours at the office and then at home, Rachel simply didn't have the time or energy to write a book quickly. Rachel used parts of her job to help with her writing. She took an underwater diving trip with the Fish and Wildlife Service. The view through the windows of her diving helmet filled her with wonder. The sea was full of animals, riding with or fighting against or hiding from the strong currents. The ocean was as powerful as she had dreamed it would be, but so much more alive. She told a friend that the dive was one of the greatest moments of her life, after which everything seems a little different. Rachel became the first woman to see the northern Atlantic on a Fish and Wildlife Service research boat. Sailing for 10 days without seeing land gave her a feel for the vast size and endless movement of the ocean. These new adventures went into the sea around us. Rachel used the exciting new facts learned from wartime research. Every night she took so many books out of the library that she couldn't carry them all. An artist from her office, Bob Hines, helped. He was like a big brother to her, carrying books to and from her old green car. Experts the world over answered her questions through the mails. She used more than 1,000 sources to find out what she needed to know. After 3 years, Rachel was exhausted by the effort. "I am grimly determined to finish somehow." She complained to Marie when the book was nearly done. "I feel now that I'd die if this went on much longer." Finally, it was ready. Rachel's mother typed it, and Marie sent The Sea Around Us to Oxford University Press in July of 1950. Rachel's book began with the gray beginnings of that great mother of life, the sea. Then she described the long snowfall of tiny bits of dead plants and animals who die in the sea. They sink down into deep cold currents that sweep them back up to feed new life at the surface. Next, Rachel showed how tides, waves, and currents mixed the seas. Last, she explained how the ocean affects all of us. The message of Rachel's book was that the earth, with its seas, is a balanced planet where nothing is ever wasted. This is how we have learned to think of our world today, but in 1951 few people had ever heard the word ecology. Rachel wrote so clearly and so beautifully that others later thought the ideas and the writing were like poetry. Rachel answered that if there is poetry in my book, it was only because no one could write truthfully about the sea and leave out the poetry. The publisher told Rachel that this new book would be a big seller and make a lot of money. That hadn't happened with Under the Sea Wind, and she didn't believe it would happen this time either. Before The Sea Around Us was printed, Marie sold parts of it to the New Yorker, an important magazine. One of the chapters won a $1,000 prize, and Reader's Digest offered her $10,000 to sell her book through its book club. The Sea Around Us arrived in bookstores in July. By August, it was on the bestseller list. By Christmas, there were 4,000 copies a day being sold. Many people were so touched by the writer's knowledge and love of the sea that they wanted to meet her and to hear her talk. That part was hard on Rachel. One evening at a college where she was to give a speech, she looked so unhappy that a friend asked her if she was all right. "The truth is," Rachel answered, "I'm much more at home barefoot in the sand or on a shipboard in sneakers than in high heels." Even so, Rachel found herself giving speeches to thousands of people, and though she had always kept her life private, newspapers sent reporters to find out more about her. This was fame, and Rachel did not like it one bit.